Ever been playing a game and just thought, whoa, the camera. Like, it's so good, you got to stop and appreciate it.
Happens to me all the time.
Right. But it's easy to forget someone had to actually make that happen, and I'm guessing it's not easy.
Oh, it's way more than just pointing and shooting, that's for sure. Game devs used to spend ages trying to get cameras right.
So today's deep dive is all about that magic, Cinemachine. It's this tool inside Unity, which, if you don't know, is like the game engine for so many devs now.
Yeah, Unity's huge, and Cinemachine's a big reason why. It's basically changed how we do cameras in games, period.
Okay, so no more mystery. Tell us more. What is it like? Imagine I'm a dev. What am I actually doing with this Cinemachine thing?
So picture this. Instead of writing tons of code to move the camera around, you get these things called virtual cameras.
Virtual cameras. Okay, I kind of get it, like different angles and stuff.
More than that. Each
Yeah.
one's like a specialist cameraman with their own job, close-ups, sweeping shots, you name it, and they're all ready to film.
So instead of animating everything manually, I give these virtual guys instructions. That's got to be way more flexible.
Exactly. It's a totally different approach, way more dynamic, which is exactly what you want when the action's happening live.
But how does the game know which camera to use at any given time? Like, do I have to tell it every second, okay, now close up, now back to wide?
Nope. That's where the magic happens. Cinemachine's got this thing called the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like the director on a film set.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The brain, huh?
It's constantly watching the game, where the player is, what they're doing, even the enemies, everything. And it picks the best camera for that exact moment. Whoa, so it's like a dynamic camera crew, always adapting on the fly. That must make a huge difference, not just for devs, but for us players too, right?
Huge. It's one of those things, good camera work, you don't always notice it, but it's crucial for that feeling of being in the game.
Totally. Bad camera work can ruin a game for me instantly, but when it's good, you just get sucked in.
And that's what Cinemachine's all about, making the camera feel invisible so the player can focus on the experience.
Okay, so we've got all these virtual cameras, each with their own specialty, and the brain is calling the shots. But what are these cameras doing when they're not live? Are they just chilling out, waiting for their cue?
Not exactly. They've each got a specific state. Live, obviously, that's when they're in control, but then there's standby.
Ooh, standby like backup dancers ready to hit the stage.
Perfect analogy. They're still tracking their target, getting instructions, just not controlling the view yet.
And that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Because it means the switch can be instant and smooth. Like character starts talking, boom, close-up camera's ready to go.
Exactly. And then there's disabled, which sounds bad, but it's not. They're basically off-duty, not using processing power until they're needed.
So you could have a camera that's only for a chase sequence, or maybe one that activates if you find a secret area. All kinds of cool stuff.
See, the possibilities are endless. And that's just scratching the surface because each of these virtual cameras,
Yeah.
well, they've got a whole lot of ways they can be controlled and fine-tuned to get that perfect cinematic look.
Okay, now you have to give me an example. Like, what kind of control are we talking about here?
All right, how about damping? Sounds technical, but it's all about how smooth the camera feels, especially in motion.
Yeah.
Imagine a fast-paced game, and the camera's trying to keep up with every single twitch of the player.
Oh, yeah, instant headache. I've played games where the camera alone made me nauseous.
Exactly, that's zero damping. But with damping, you control how smoothly the camera catches up, how lazy it is.
So instead of jerking around, it's like a pro cameraman, anticipating the movement, keeping it smooth.
Exactly, it makes all the difference, and Cinemachine gives you fine-grained control over it.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. More damping, smoother camera, more cinematic feel. And that makes the game more immersive, especially during intense moments where you don't want distractions.
Precisely. It's about finding the sweet spot, and Cinemachine gives devs the tools to do it right.
Damping. It's like the camera's got shock absorbers, makes the ride smooth, even when things get crazy. I like it. So what else is in this Unity manual? What other tricks does Cinemachine have up its sleeve?
Well, we touched on offsets earlier, remember? Subtle but important. Imagine framing a photo. You wouldn't always put the subject dead center, right?
Yeah, sometimes you want them off to the side a bit, maybe something cool in the background. Composition, right.
Exactly. And that's what offsets let you do with virtual cameras in Cinemachine. Nudge them up, down, left, right, all relative to the target.
So in a side-scroller, if that character is always in the perfect spot, even when the background's moving, that's probably offsets doing their thing.
Bingo. Or those over-the-shoulder games, third person. The offset keeps that shoulder nicely in frame so you've got a good view of what's going on.
Man, this is wild. Okay, so we got cameras, different states. We can smooth them out, position them just right. anything else these virtual camera wizards can do.
Get this, they can practically see the future.
Hold on, what? How's that even work? Does it read my mind or something?
Not quite mind reading, but close. It's called look ahead. And basically, the camera peeks ahead to see where the target's going.
So instead of lagging behind, it's already moving smoothly in that direction, like it knows.
Exactly. Makes it feel supernatural, like a human camera operator who's one step ahead. Speaking of which, one thing that always bugs me is when the camera goes haywire. Clipping through walls, that kind of thing.
Ugh, the dreaded wall hack. Ruins the immersion instantly. One minute you're exploring a creepy mansion, the next you're staring at the inside of a wall texture.
Yeah, classic problem, but Cinemachine's got an answer for that too. The Cinemachine Collider.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How do you stop a virtual camera from going through solid objects?
It's all about something called raycasting. Imagine the camera sending out these invisible feelers, constantly checking if it's about to hit something.
So it's like the camera has its own little radar system. That's so cool.
Exactly. And if those feelers, those rays, touch something, boom, the collider knows to adjust. It shifts the camera out of the way in real time so you always have a clear view.
No more accidental wall peaks. I love it. Cinemachine's got our backs. But, all this talk about movement and positioning, what about the art of it? Like
Yeah.
how you frame the shot, all those rules you see in photography and film.
Ah, you're thinking like a true cinephile. And you're right, it's not just about moving smoothly, it's about composition, guiding the player's eye. And Cinemachine has tools for that too.
Okay, now you've got to give me the details. What kind of tools?
For starters, there's the Cinemachine Framing Transposer. Remember how offsets keep the character in frame? This one takes it up a notch.
Okay, how so?
You can literally define zones on the screen where you want the target to stay no matter what. Like, imagine a racing game. Cars always center, even when you're speeding or turning.
Whoa, that's wild. Or like those side-scrolling shooters, the framing transposer would make sure your ship always has space to fly into so you can see what's coming.
Exactly. It's about using framing to make the gameplay better, make sure the player has the info they need, and then there's the Cinemachine Follow Zoom.
Hit me with it. What's the follow zoom all about?
This one's all about that dynamic field of view, the FOV. Ever notice how in some games, the camera zooms in as you go faster, ramps up the intensity?
Oh, yeah, totally. Racing games do that all the time, especially when you hit the boost.
Exactly. Or, in a boss battle, maybe the camera zooms out to show how huge the enemy is, makes you feel small and kind of scared.
Okay, now that is cool. So it's not just where the camera is, it's the zoom too, right? Changes how you feel about the whole thing.
Got it. And those are just a couple of examples. Cinemachine has a whole toolbox for framing, lets devs create those moments we remember in games, those cinematic highs and lows.
I'm telling you, my mind is blown. Never thought about this much detail going into a camera in a game. I'm starting to think the camera's like the unsung hero of gaming, When it's good, you don't even notice, but man, it makes all the difference.
It's the silent storyteller. And here's the thing about Cinemachine. It's not just about these individual tricks, it's how they all work together. In a big game, you might have like dozens of these virtual cameras going at once.
Dozens. Whoa. Okay, so how do they not crash into each other? Who's in charge up there?
That's where the priority system comes in. Each camera's got a ranking, basically, and the highest one wins.
So if two cameras both want to film the same thing, the higher priority one gets to be the director for that moment.
You got it. And this priority, devs can set it manually, or it can change based on what's happening. Say you're exploring an open-world, nice wide camera shot.
Letting me enjoy the view, yeah.
Then, bam, you enter a tight cave. Suddenly, a camera that's designed for that cave, closer in, more intense, it could automatically take over.
Okay, now that is slick. The camera's practically reading my mind, adapting to the situation.
It's all about seamless transitions, keeping you in the experience. And speaking of transitions, Cinemachine doesn't just cut between cameras. It does this thing called blending.
Blending. So not like channel switching on a TV, but more subtle.
Way more subtle. One camera fades into the next, so smooth you barely notice, but it makes it feel so much more polished.
Man, now I'm going to be paying attention to that in every game I play. It's like you unlocked a secret level of awareness.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing the good and the bad, trust me.
Okay, before we wrap up, one last thing that's been bugging me. All this talk of smooth cameras. What about when you want it to be shaky? Like explosions, fight scenes, that kind of thing?
You're thinking about those action movie moments. And yeah, sometimes you need a little chaos to sell it. Cinemachine's got you covered.
No way, they thought of everything.
Pretty much. There's a whole system for adding camera shake, jitter, all that good stuff. But it's not random, it's controlled, you can fine-tune it to get the exact feeling you want.
So instead of the camera just freaking out, it's like choreographed chaos adds to the intensity without being disorienting.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, this stuff isn't just for big budget games anymore. Cinemachine's available to indie devs too, so we're seeing this level of camera work everywhere.
That's what I love about learning this stuff. It makes you appreciate the artistry even more.
And realize that even in the things we think we know, like how a camera works, there's always more to discover.
Truth. Well, I think it's time to say cut on this deep dive into Cinemachine. We covered a lot today. Virtual cameras, states, damping, offsets, even camera shake.
Quite the crash course. But hey, listeners, now it's your turn. Next time you're gaming, keep an eye out for these techniques in action.
Yeah, think about those games with amazing camera work. Can you see Cinemachine's fingerprints now? It's like a whole new way to appreciate the art form.
And who knows, maybe this sparked an interest in game dev for some of you.
There you go. Maybe you'll be the one crafting those cinematic experiences someday.
Until then, keep exploring, keep playing, and most importantly, keep asking those, how do they do that? Questions.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Tell us your favorite game camera moments. We love hearing from you all.
Until next time.